So this first exercise, we're going to be working on something that inspires us. And this can be unique to you. You don't have to worry about it being uplifting or inspirational to anyone else. I'm going to be working on a phrase. I think this is the perfect excuse to use hand lettering. So I'm going to be using maybe 3 different colors only for this project. I changed my mind. I'm going to use 4. And I picked a light color because that's what I'm going to lay down as the background. I'm going to be drawing on top of the letters with black. And then I have some florals in mind, which I'm going to use these darker colors for. Don't get too caught up with your colors. I think just pick a few that you're more drawn to, and that's that. I don't spend too much time thinking about what I'm going to be using other than what colors I'm drawn to in the moment. So the phrase that I chose today is undateable. And this is an example of something that might not inspire or uplift others, but it's something that's always on my mind. I don't think it's a bad thing to be undateable. I think you can be undateable for many different reasons. It might be emotional unavailability, or it might be that you're too aware of your self-worth. I'm starting off with the base color for the letters. Then the second step will be me drawing over the letters. I kind of embellish them a little bit so it's beyond just having the base color. And then that's when I will be drawing. I'm going to draw some floral around the lettering. I'm really just trying to take advantage of the size of the paper. Truly don't get caught up in how this is looking when you're working on your own. It's different for me because I'm your teacher. It's really just about getting it all down. So this is where I am adding some embellishments, some intrigue, you might say, to the letters. I want to add some interest to this because even if people can't relate, it can still be a beautiful piece of art. But it's not something to get caught up in. I think just, especially if you don't identify as an artist, just worrying about getting the feelings down. This exercise is, we're not digging as deep as perhaps the one where we'll talk about what we hate or what we love, but this is still very telling about you and your interests. It's also kind of fun to make something look so beautiful that people might not associate as being fun or uplifting or beautiful, typically. And that's what you get when you draw your feelings. I think that there is beauty in vulnerability, and I do not think that your feelings have to be pretty to be beautiful. I'm going to outline these letters because they just weren't fun enough for me. I'm mostly outlining the letters because I don't want them to get too lost once I incorporate other features into the drawing. It's important to me that the word itself is legible. This is probably the most important part of the piece. Okay, so now that we have our word or phrase, we can go wild with color. This isn't totally necessary. I mean, you might not want to embellish the way that I am, but it can be fun. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but these markers are the best, these Tombos. Guys, I didn't plan this at all when I started, aside from knowing the phrase that I was going to illustrate. So you really should just dive in, see where it takes you. There are things that will drive you mad because we're not working digitally. You can't just like go back and erase marker, but I think that's the fun of it. I think you'll know when you're done just by looking at your drawing, and if you are at a loss for anything to add, just don't push it further. If you're happy with what you made, or you feel like this exercise served its purpose, don't push it too much further. I am almost done. You don't want anything to be too overworked. I didn't use the red because I just didn't feel like the work needed it. Sometimes I start out that way and think, oh, wow, 4 colors, that doesn't seem so bad. And then you just start finding your way in the illustration, and I think less is more. At least that's my mentality for my own work. And there you have it. All right, guys, it's time for you to get started on your own piece, and don't forget to upload to the project gallery. Next up, we'll be working on what we hate.
So, yeah, hopefully you've filled your head with lots of amazing, resource material, and books and people and art shows and gigs and anything, weird stuff you see on the street. So your head now, hopefully, is full of fantastical things. So let's loosen up and do some very simple, basic doodling exercises to get ourselves in the mood. So think of these in terms of how a athlete or sports person might limber up and stretch before going into doing some drawings. An athlete might not do some drawings, so, before they play their sport. So grab a pen, grab some paper. We're going to do some fluid, loose doodle, and we're going to do them with our eyes closed. And we're just going to put the pen on the paper and very freely move it around. Doesn't have to be erratic, crazy scribbling, although it can be if that's your thing. But just like to get a nice feel of the pen, the flow, and the important thing here is the uninterrupted line that we're going to draw. We're not going to worry about what we're drawing because we can't really see what we're drawing. Make sure you're not drawing on your best tablecloth or off the table onto your knee or something. But it's about like just loosening it up and sort of just feeling the flow of the line drawing. So we're going to do that. That's a good exercise. Do a few sheets of that. You can turn the paper over if you want to save the paper, and just get that nice flow, that nice action. Smooth, curly, whirly, scribbliness. Feel the texture of the paper and how the friction of the pen moving along the paper. I'm just going to get comfortable with that, and we'll see what happens. So this is kind of good because you begin to imagine the lines you're drawing on the paper in your mind, and maybe it fuses some sort of synergy between mind and hand and pen and paper. And if I wasn't talking, I'd be quite enjoying listening to the sound of the pen on the paper. It's kind of satisfying. It sounds a little bit like the sound of people shoveling snow off driveways. That's what I think it sounds a little bit like. A little scratchy and scrapey, but also kind of soft. And there's definitely some sort of rhythmic element to this kind of drawing. Imagine that the tip of the pen is one of those little balls that bounce along the words in karaoke videos, and we're hopping along some kind of melody. That's what the line is tracing around and doing. So it's kind of ever so slightly meditative and pleasurable in that sense. Alright, so yeah, it's a little scribble that I've made. Kind of nice.
So this exercise is kind of weird, but it's still pretty fun. I went outside, got a big old bag full of dirt and grime, and just a bunch of other nature objects when I was finding my bigger nature object. But we're gonna take the subtractive exercise and use this big old bag of stuff. So I'm gonna put this out on my piece of paper, just fan it all out, and then start to subtract from this stuff self-portraits. So again, I'm positioned in front of my mirror. I have my bag of stuff. I guess let's just dump it out there and see what happens. Wow, okay. Let's try to get this like a little bit uniform. Oh, that kind of worked out nicely. Like all this stuff looks like my hat up there. Okay. And I even have like some accent objects here too. So we could do this a couple ways. We could either use our finger, or I kind of like the idea of just like taking some of these objects and using those as the subtractive element themselves. So this looks cool for something thinner lines. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe this for like the bigger stuff. We can always change. Okay, now I'm gonna scrunch down on the floor like an old man and try to, this one, when you're looking at the mirror, again, like make sure you're kind of blocking out these like bigger light elements. If you find some other way to kind of distill this, then go for it. But we could just rely on the picture. This subtractiveness too is like not quite like the eraser, because I think it's all right to cheat and like push some more stuff back. So it's maybe not all subtractive and more kind of just pushing around of stuff. Let me get these. I'm kind of got sucked into looking at detail too much. So let me get these big shapes first. Okay, bigger, getting some bigger shapes. And again, with these, like we're gonna, it's fun to like get out of like in front of your computer and do this stuff, but we are like really teaching us to like look at stuff just differently, and seeing where, and we'll be able to like again extract a bunch of this stuff to actually use in our illustration, or just use like the feeling kind of this stuff. Sometimes when you do this too, it's good to be in like have a lot of light to create a lot of different types of shadows, and then you could like really see some of the like the different like bigger shapes. And okay, I mean, I think that's like a good idea of like what you can do with this. When I take a picture of this, like there's like just so much texture here. Like we can look at how these different shapes play together. Like once I take a picture, bring this to Photoshop, adjust the levels, we could pull out some textures from it. But we can even think of like within Photoshop or some of like Illustrator, we could like thinking of creating illustration like the kind of same way of like a collage of all this shit and just like, a collage of all this like different elements and how like work together actually to compose like an illustration instead of just drawing a vector shape. But I'm gonna take a picture of this. Oh, here's some other rocks I found. These are just cool. You could like, I don't know, decorate them. Cool. you could use like, I just use my phone camera most of the time. It will like actually take a good enough picture where I could still extract, scan it in, or not scan it in, create traced artwork from the image. Cool. So we're all done.
Drawing is a skill anyone can master. You just need to know how. Hi, my name is Jutta Schneider. I'm an artist and educator based in Germany. Are you ready to rewire your brain and change your thinking? Then let's start by having a look at how our brain works. Here's a simplified image of our brain. There is the left hemisphere, and here's the right. The left hemisphere is the logical and analyzing side, whereas the right one is more associated with creativity and intuition. When we look at the left side's tasks, we can tell that these are all skills that are highly nurtured in school and modern society. That makes our left hemisphere quite dominant. We can also say that making art like drawing, painting, or any other creative process are probably part of the right hemisphere's duties. Our goal should be to keep both halves of our brain in balance and use the appropriate side for a given task. We have already learned that the left part is quite dominant, as it is well trained by the school system and societal values. But how do you train the right side of the brain? Well, simply by taking away some of the dominance of its left counterpart. The reason we often claim we can't draw is because we use the wrong side of our brain for this task. In childhood, we memorized simplified images of everything around us. Storing informations as simplified symbols makes it easier for our brain. It works faster. Let's prove it. Pause this video and take a piece of paper and a pen. Now draw a simple flower, just from memory. Then come back to this lesson. If your flower looks somehow like this, then it's because your left brain side took over. I just drew a symbol of a flower. And yes, it looks childish and not really realistic. It is what my brain stored back then. And it's pretty quick in referring back to it when I think of a flower. This happens with basically anything we want to draw. We draw from memory instead of what we see. It's not, let me repeat that, it's not because we can't do any better, but because the left brain pushes forward and takes away the duties of the right brain hemisphere. So nothing's wrong with our drawing ability. I will show you ways to push back this cheeky left brain side. We will learn to observe and focus on what we actually see to stop our brain from referring back to symbols. Now, you can focus on drawing with the right side of your brain. Our brain tries to work efficiently by referring back to memories instead of verifying reality. Remember the simple flower our brain wants you to draw just because it's quicker and easier than observing a real one. But observing is extremely important, and our brain needs to understand that when we want to draw, we don't want to be quick and efficient. So here's to learning how to observe and empower the right side of the brain by drawing with your non-dominant hand. Yes, you've heard right. Trust me, this is gonna work. So if you are right-handed, you will do this exercise with your left hand and vice versa. I want you to find a reference photo of a simple flower. I like using photos from websites like Pixabay or Unsplash. Download the photo of your choice. If you work on paper, you just use this device to show the reference photo. If you work in Procreate, you can use the reference function by tapping the wrench tool, canvas, reference, and then choosing the photo from your camera roll. Of course, you can skip the downloading step completely and just draw in split view. Remember to add a new layer and turn it into a clipping mask. And now you're going to draw what you see with your non-dominant hand. Please understand that the goal here is not to create the most beautiful artwork, but to engage the right brain side. By doing something completely new and unusual, we can trick our brains and make them stop drawing from memory. We are forced to focus on the image as well as our wrong drawing hand. And this will create new links in our brain, which is what always happens when we learn something new. So don't judge your drawing. It will most likely look awful. Instead, see the fun in this exercise. I am basically giggling all the time. It feels so weird, and my right hand is so clumsy. But I do also feel how engaged my brain is and how intensely I am observing my motif just to tell my clumsy right hand what exactly to draw. And that's my flower attempt, drawn with my non-dominant hand. It's definitely not my greatest work ever, but this exercise was very important for our brains to get rid of old behavior patterns that don't work anymore when drawing. Instead, we relinked our neurons and created new connections. So, well done you. That was a lot of work for your brain. Make sure you praise yourself for another great achievement.